Good day everyone. So in the previous video we talked a bit about the types of character content that I'd like to see added into Genshin Impact. So now let's talk a bit about the types of combat related content that I'd like to see. So it's no real secret, the current combat that we have in Genshin Impact is very easy. The only real challenge is sort of floor 12, the Spiral Abyss, mostly because floors 9 to 10 are just repeat events and floor 11 is like a watered down version. So floor 12 is really only all we've got, and it kind of gets stale, especially if you guys see me beat up the Spiral Abyss in 20 different bazillion ways over and over. It's kind of getting boring. So how do we fix all of this? Well, I think the biggest thing that I'd want to see is a sort of endgame dungeon per region in Genshin Impact. So what I'd like to see in Mondstadt would be something like the current Spiral Abyss, and I'll talk about how to rework it. In Leeway, something like what we had from the Perilous Trail event could be a sort of new sort of in-game dungeon that you would need to go through multiple rounds, choosing stratagems. It will be kind of fun. In Inazuma, you could use the Mystic Dungeon. I thought that was like a very good event. And obviously with Sumeru and all of the other things, Fontaine and so on, we'd get more and more in-game dungeons added, and these would reset every 2 weeks, though not all necessarily on the same day. So having more and more in-game content would be kind of fun to be able to sort of do and so on. So how would they work? How would for instance, the Mondstadt dungeon work? Well, this is how I'd rework it. First of all, I'd make all of the floors 8 to 12. I just change all of the monsters to be like level 100, and then I'd give each one of those floors a different objective. So let's say floor 8 would work like the current floor 12. You want to beat it with a certain within a certain amount of time. That'll be just the very stock standard. Now floor 9 could be something like just a pure tower defense. Floor 11 could be like a survival mode where you want to try and survive for as long as possible or for a certain number of waves. And floor 12 can actually then just be a mix of the other three, or just even a new unique challenge like trying to get as high as possible score within a given time limit. So these would be very fun little systems, but there's one big twist I'd introduce. For the Mondstadt region and the Mondstadt region alone, I'd want Genshin Impact to give us a set of standardized characters to use. In other words, all of the characters in your party will be trial characters, but they will consist out of all of the characters in the game. So for instance, you'll have all of the 4 stars at C6 and all the 5 stars at C0. You will only be allowed to choose one 5-star weapon from the pool of weapons, and you would then have a choice of 200 plus artifacts from a sort of standardized set of artifacts. So you'd have like a big artifact pool, and then you can put together certain sort of combinations and so on. And obviously one of the big consequences of this is that the theory crafting Genshin Impact will finally be properly standardized. My biggest problem, of course, is that the guys use a bunch of arbitrary assumptions, and you might not necessarily buy into those assumptions. But what a standardized system here would do is it would say, well, look, your character compared to another character would be this strong, so if your character is actually above the breakpoint, you could use it instead of this other character. So hint, think of the Xingshu versus Yelong debate. The other thing that I want to sort of point out is that once you've now gotten the standardized system, the rewards for this should only be like Primogem related, and now for all of the other regions, Leeway, Inazuma, and all of the other endgame dungeons, you use your current characters, all the characters that you've been working so hard on and that you are building. And for each one of those regions, you could have different types of rewards. So for instance, Leeway could give you, let's say, more artifacts, or let's say guaranteed artifact drops, or more artifact enhancement, or whatever. Inazuma could give you, let's say, some tokens for buying more skins and stuff. There's all sorts of things that the guys could really think of, but the whole point of the other regions would be to say, well, how is your account progressing? It's all got to be about that optionality, about how you want to curate your gameplay. So in a certain sense, the other regions is about, you know, you refining your journey, and obviously as we go on through Sumeru, Fontaine, Natlan and all the other ones, the dungeons are supposed to get harder, to a point that I would argue that at the very final end of the dungeon you would at least need one C6 R5 character's worth of strength, just one in your party, to be able to complete the most difficult content. But because by that time, like 5 or 6 years after you've been playing constantly, you should have a lot of characters. Your account strength should be strong enough to be able to tackle that sort of content, and it would be a very nice progression system that you could sort of work on, and that is all based off of the characters that you are currently using. So yeah, guys, that has been my thoughts for a system like this. There's definitely a lot you could flesh out about this, but just in summary, different regions, different dungeons, and of course we need a standardized system so that we can have a better basis for stuff like theory crafting and so on. Thanks for watching. Cheers.